That is universal truth. Allow yourself to just see what is, and then it doesn't control you. Then the external that you see doesn't own you, doesn't dictate to you.
It almost seems like that's also happening internally. Like we are walking through our own fires, moving through challenging situations.
There was a time when the external reality could do that for us. There was that time. We are no longer in that world. We're no longer in that time. And if we continue to open up our stargates, which is our own energy field.
But if we take personal responsibility to such a personal degree, then we're going to start actually blaming ourselves for what we're seeing.
And it's very difficult as a spiritual teacher to explain. You are already in a higher realm, even though your eyes don't yet see it.
Kerry K, welcome back on Just Tap In. And you know I got to ask you this. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Oh, globally, I'm the most excited to see power shifts happening, even though I know they're not obvious. They are happening. And they're happening because we as humanity are shifting at the inner level. So the question, what am I happy to see on the outside, comes back to exactly the same thing happening for me as it is for you, as it is for all of us on the inside. And that is that we're becoming more love, more power, more truth, more sovereign. And some days we wobble, and some days we feel like we're failing. But if we allow ourselves the wisdom of hindsight, and we don't look just at the last 10 minutes or the last 10 days or even the last 10 months, but we really zoom out, it's then that we're able to say, hey, I am more. I am more than I was a year, 2, 5, 10. I am more experienced. I'm more expansive. And because that's the truth, the ripple that each and every single one of us is a part of begins to shape the collective. We're not separate from that external world. We were, and I'm most excited to see the role humanity is playing in the shifts that are happening, because they wouldn't be able to happen if humanity wasn't prepared, if humanity wasn't able to hold their power again. Then other people would be doing it for us. The path is being laid for us to step in and say, oh yeah, that's my power, that's my role, I'll take it, thank you.
I've heard you say before that humanity doesn't even know what power is anymore. And it's almost like we're going through a whole redefinition of power is, because the people that were in power, we're beginning to start to see truths come out that completely radically change our perception of those people in power and our own internal power as well. So what is that redefinition that we're going through around our power and power in general?
Our power is directly connected to our personal responsibility. So and this is why I say we forgot what power is, because we forgot what personal responsibility is. When I'm in personal responsibility, I'm able to respond. That's what it is. I'm able to be powerful enough to effect change in my world. But the way that we were taught in the past was not that. It was not the way of personal responsibility. Instead, it was the way of blame. In the past, and you'll still see people pulling on the habit of the past that they lived in, you'll still see it happening, but the shift that we're making is away from finger pointing, away from the blame, the shame, the naming, the putting other people in a bad light. It's now more like, how can I make my world better? How can I make my life more complete? Yes, everything out there can be in a shambles, but that doesn't mean I have to be. That's personal responsibility. And from that, power comes. But you cannot be powerful and blaming the external world and saying things like, oh, when that person is arrested, when that person changes, and it might be a lover, it might be an ex-friend, it might be a president, it could be anybody. But when your happiness depends on somebody else's suffering, you're not powerful. And one of the greatest myths that we were taught, and it's one of the reasons why we didn't become powerful, is that responsibility of the personal nature equates to blame. This is not the case. This is so untrue, and it's why we avoided being responsible, which is to therefore avoid power, is because we didn't want to be wrong, we didn't want blame, we didn't want shame, we already had enough. So instead we thought, ooh, if I put someone else in power and things go bad, it's their fault. I'm indemnified. We wanted that indemnification. We wanted it so desperately that we were willing to put others in positions of power so that we didn't have to fail or face the opportunity to fail. But when we understand personal responsibility is not about blame. If I say to you, hey, Emilio, I did this in my world and I take responsibility, it is not me saying to you, I'm a nincompoop, I'm bad, I'm stupid, I deserve punishment. It's me saying, I'm powerful enough to see who created this. And because I'm powerful enough to see that I am the source, I am the creator of my experience, I'm powerful enough to reshape it now. I don't have to wait for someone to change for me to be happy. I've got that power. That's what it looks like.
I've also seen you talk about all of these truth triggers that are being pulled to the surface at this time. That is actually what's leading us to these realizations around personal responsibility, authenticity, power itself. And if you were to look at the wider maybe scale of what's going on in the world, I know a lot is being thrown at us right now. And our nervous system is getting riled up, from wars to the e-files to all of these different things. What is the spiritual, let's say, reasoning behind why this is all coming up to the surface and these truths are emerging for us to see dead on in the face?
It's not accidental. That's the first and most obvious thing. It's not happening as an inconvenience to our ascension and evolution. It's happening because of our ascension and evolution. And what we're seeing is, look at the places that you once leaked your power to. Just look at them. No punishment, no blame, no shame, no wrongness, only observation, only acknowledgement. And then we can say, oh wow, look at where I was leaking power to a political party, a governmental organization, a celebrity, a pop star, a movie star. Because what we're being shown is, the so-called people at the top, in our human terminology, they didn't deserve the position we gave them. They were flawed, they were fallible, they were corrupted. Not every single one of them. Can never be that case. Many of them were. So the observation for humanity is, wow, there was this 1%, this ruling elite that humanity gave power to, which is very different from saying they stole humanity's power. When we see, we gave our power, and every single day when we say they're still in charge of my world, my reality, my happiness, I'm still empowering that old system that used to run, the old illusion that we lived in. So the shift that's taking place now is the blindfolds are coming off. We get to see. And what if we get to see what's ahead of us and not talk about how wrong and how bad, but how powerful it is now that we can see, and now take personal responsibility, which is not blame, which is just our power back, and say, wow, I'm shifting. This is for each one of us to say, I'm shifting into a reality where I'm in charge again. Which is another way of saying I am reclaiming the driver's seat of my reality. I'm becoming truly a creative force on the planet now because I'm not outsourcing my power. I'm not leaking my power in the way that I used to. And that's a big turnaround for humanity. to reclaim a reality where we had the illusion that we had power into the truth of our actualized embodied power. It's a big step, and most people don't realize we're in that step. Like, that's where we are right now. We're in the process of making that step. And you know, when you're in the process of making a step, think of it like this. In order to take a step, one foot is not on the ground. So you wobble a little bit. And that's very much where humanity is. One step, one foot is on the ground. But we're in the process of taking this big quantum leap forward. And just before the second step, the second foot lands and we feel grounded again, we're going to feel wobbly. We're going to feel like, oh, things are going wrong. Nothing's going wrong. We're just being given the opportunity to see what was once hidden.
And speaking of those big steps that we're taking as a collective as well, we are going to talk about the pole shift later on in the conversation. But I just wanted to stay on that personal responsibility for a moment, because you received an email from someone in your community saying, hey, Kerry, if I'm seeing war, does that mean that I'm in a lower timeline? And that's like taking the personal responsibility to another step, because, you know, these things are happening in the external world. But if we take personal responsibility to such a personal degree, then we're going to start actually blaming ourselves for what we're seeing. So I wanted to dive into that for just a moment, of that email that came through and what you responded on the other side.
Well, the irony of such an email and such a question is that that very question is someone giving their power away to me. Kerry, you must be the spokesperson now for how this works. You must be the spokesperson for how reality works. If I see war, Kerry, you must tell me, have I failed? Instead of, I'm sovereign, baby. I'm the power here. If I see war, if I see peace, it doesn't determine who I am. It can be a reflection. It can be something for me to observe. It's wonderful. But I am not my external reality. I am, in fact, my internal reality, and I'm being asked to come home and reclaim the inner world. We all feel homeless. Isn't that crazy? Every spiritual seeker in some way, big or small, feels a little bit homesick, a little bit longing, like they're longing for love, they're longing for peace, they're longing for a state of being, or what they think is another planet. They're longing for that divine reunion with their true eternal self. And when we outsource power to Kerry, to you, to our neighbor, to anybody else, and allow them to give us the rules of reality, then we're missing such a potent opportunity to reclaim reality. So my answer to her was, number one, don't ask me that question. And number two, you're not the war. The war's a reflection in the mirror, and we haven't understood the difference before between what we see in the mirror and the person standing in front of the mirror. You have to cast the gaze inward now. Instead of the reflection, who's causing the reflection? And am I wrong for seeing something I don't like? No, absolutely not. You cannot be wrong. You cannot be less. You cannot be weakened by what you observe. When you observe what is, it's almost like you've got to get very matter of fact. This is what is. How simple does this sound? You must see what is and acknowledge what is. I mean, I sound almost like I'm talking to a first grader when I say it in such simple terms. You would expect enlightenment to be more highfalutin, more complex than that. And yet, in its simple essence, that is universal truth. Allow yourself to just see what is, and then it doesn't control you. Then the external that you see doesn't own you, doesn't dictate to you. You instead become the creator of reality instead of the one who reality is creating. Do you see the woman who emailed me? She was allowing the so-called war and everything around her to create her. She was giving her power away to the external. And I was saying to her, you are the cause of the reflection. Regardless of what you look like in the mirror, what do you feel like when you close your eyes? Because I can look in the mirror, Emilio, and I'll be honest with you. I can say to you, damn it, there's flab. Not a fan. There's a double chin. Not a fan. But what am I doing? I'm then looking at the external. And I'm not saying those things don't matter and can't be improved, because they can. I must see what is. I must acknowledge it. I must then close my eyes and say, but wait, who is Kerry really? Who am I in my essence? Am I going to allow those things that I don't like to define me and to make me feel weak and less and like I failed? Or am I going to be brave enough to say, that's a perspective, a reflection of me, but who is the core? Who is the divine, eternal core? Because when I connect to that more deeply, more powerfully, more truly, I send out a ripple into my reality that changes everything. That's what we're being asked to do. It's a brave step, another big brave step. Look at all of us. We're taking these big brave leaps and we don't even know we're doing it.
Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode. The ascension process is almost something that we've been preparing for lifetimes.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to tie in there is because of these personal ascension triggers that we're having, that's also being met with these accelerated earth changes as well. Not in like the external current events, news type of events, but I'm talking about the earth itself and what she's going through. Perhaps in the last 13,000 years or so, we haven't experienced a pole shift, but we're in due time as a cyclical effect for what these natural cycles have. So I just wanted to open this space, really an open container, to go really deep on what you've received, what you've understood very deeply around this pole shift and its significance right now for all of us, all of humanity at this time.
Yeah. The pole shift is so deeply misunderstood, and when here's the irony, when it is understood, it's almost more problematic, because when people understand what the pole shift is, they automatically go, oh, red alert, nothing's going to survive that. That's an extinction level event. So on one hand, it's kind of good when we don't analyze and pick something apart. So for the sake of keeping this conversation in a non-analytical field, so that we can feel, like I said, go to the mirror, feel who's inside, so that we can feel the core essence of what's taking place. Let me describe the pole shift as this. We live on an earth, a planet, and there is an external layer to the planet that we live on that's called the surface of the planet. And that surface we also understand to be a crust. And inside that crust, we understand there's the core of the planet. Now imagine, if you will, that the core of the planet and the crust of the planet, imagine that they can become loose from each other, almost like the peel of an orange coming loose from the orange. And imagine that the peel of the orange could turn. So the crust of the earth, that's the pole shift. The crust of the earth goes and repositions itself. This is where many people start panicking, because they go, oh, Okay, now that I kind of get a hint of what the pole shift is, now that I get a glimpse of what it is, I mean, that's tsunami inducing, that is extinction level event stuff, this is where panic rises, this is where people see their doom. One fundamental truth brings us through everything, and that is your light leads you. Your field that you emanate from inside of you, that becomes a force field and a source field of God light and God consciousness. And our job from today till the pole shift happens is to do the following. How much can I be a conduit for the light of God? How much love can I let in? How much truth can I embody? How much purity and beauty at the cosmic level am I able to withstand in my field? Because the more we allow ourselves to receive these higher light codes, the more we embolden ourselves to have a force field of protection around us. And it is through that mechanism that we not just survive the pole shift. This isn't a case of, ooh, who are the lucky survivors going to be, like a planet-wide game of Survivor. It's not that. It's more like, who's able to step up into truth and allow their light to become a electromagnetic field that surrounds them, because that's exactly what is in the process of happening. We're learning as we evolve in consciousness. We're learning that we're more than the body, which is 100% true. We're learning the body doesn't define us, although it's really important. It's not the definition. And that part of the body is the energy field. And part of the energy field is a mechanism called the Merkabah. And some people think of this as a light ship, almost like a UFO, almost like this field of light that can traverse realities and dimensions. Correct. That Merkabah is coming online. The energy field that we live in is becoming activated. So when you hear people saying, man, there's so much cosmic light flooding the planet right now, what they're saying is the field of consciousness that our planet resides in is elevating, and our human job is to receive that elevation so that we can have the activation of this energy field around us, because that's how we navigate the pole shift. And it's not just how we navigate the pole shift, it's also how we navigate ascension. We navigate through the light within us coming online, becoming more than just a mere protective field, becoming its own ecosystem. So in essence, every human being that transcends through the pole shift into the great solar flash that is the actual ascension point, each human being will do so because they're able to extend a cosmic light from within them. They do not do it in the brain. There is no notes that I can give you that you can study and say, okay, this is how I switch the damn thing on. It's how do I be more love? How do I embody those cosmic, simple, seemingly simple truths that Kerry's talking about? How do I embody that? How do I embody the love? And that is a point of mastery. That's what we do every single time we close our eyes and go within and have the courage to meet what is. Every time we have the courage to be authentic with ourselves, real in our illusory reality, when we become the thing that's real inside our reality, we're switching that field on. We lived in a world of illusion, and everything that's coming is not to save you from the illusion, to rescue you from the illusion. Everything that's coming, including the pole shift, is about dissolving the illusion and enabling the version of you that's designed to navigate not just a higher reality, but your true reality. That's all coming online. And we don't get to wait for it because a lot of people do. They're in this mindset that says, I see this in every single comment section of every single video I release. Kerry, how much longer do I have to wait? Like they're accusing me of delaying them. How much more do I have to wait for this ascension thing to bloody well take place? It's taking so long already. They're angry that they're waiting. And there's a fundamental point of misery and pain. When you say, I am waiting for ascension, what you're saying is, I can't live until ascension happens. Ooh, you must come alive today, baby. You must come alive today. In the place that you feel is beneath you, unworthy of you, painful to be in, you must become the thing that is real in a world of illusion. And when you're able to do that, you're not dependent on ascension to make you happy. You are happy. You're not dependent on the external world to be harmonious for you to be harmonious. You're not dependent on anything. You're not giving your power away. You're powerful enough to be the source of love. First by receiving it, then by embodying it. That fundamental shift we want every single day to prepare for. We don't want to rush through this, although most people are in that mindset that says fast forward, let's go. You don't want to miss this. You want to be awake for this. You want to be aware for this. And today and this moment is living preparation, even as you listen to these words, even as you hear this podcast. This in itself is an activation inside the cells of your body, inside the energy field. And it says, you are here for love. And you can call that love anything you want to. You can say, it's God, the universe, Jesus, give it any name. It's love. You're here for that. You are here for love. Don't wait for love. Be the love. Because the pole shift is coming, and it is coming in our lifetime. I say that very confidently. It's coming in our lifetime. It's not coming in another 50 or 100 years. I can't predict if it's coming in the next 5 minutes or the next 5 years. But that's a very narrow window that I'm talking about when I talk about our lifetime. It's a narrow window. We've been on this planet for a ridiculously long time, much longer than we were meant to be. And when I say on this planet, I mean in the realm of illusion. We were meant to be inside the realm of illusion for only 12, maybe 13,000 years. That was pole shift to pole shift. That was the length of time that we were meant to be inside the illusion. But the Archons that controlled the illusion managed to extend the life of the illusion, which is why we're also bloody exhausted, because they managed to perpetrate timeline wars that extended the timeline artificially again, so that, for example, 100 years was lived 10 times, 20 times, 100 times over. That was a recycling, an unnatural and artificial recycling of the human consciousness in order to keep the illusory matrix alive. So that's what I mean by they've prolonged the timeline artificially. And that's why this has been more than technically a 12 to 13,000 year window period. That's what it should have been. I would say it's more at this stage, more like millions of years, not even hundreds of thousands. It's more like millions of years that have been crammed into this 12 to 13,000 year cycle. The pole shift that we're on the brink of now cannot be overridden, cannot be avoided, cannot be withdrawn. We cannot be distracted from it. We can only go forward into it. And that shift occurred in 2012. In 2012, all the timelines began to converge. And when that happened, the trick and the illusion of extending this artificial reality in the artificial way that it was, that came to an end. That's when the Archons started to panic, because they realized we can't keep splitting off from the main timeline. We're now all on one timeline. That was the convergence point that happened in 2012. And from that point, we've all been on one timeline, But within that one timeline, multiple different frequencies, which is very unnatural. Normally a timeline is way more cohesive and harmonious, meaning it's normally defined by, for example, love, or for example, judgment. A timeline normally attracts to it like frequencies. Whereas right now, our timeline holds such polarity because we're all in preparation to pass through the eye of the needle. We're in preparation. From 2012 till now, we're in preparation to walk one timeline into the ascension point. That is already irreversible. So the pole shift is merely a matter of time away. Days, weeks, months, years, probably years. But still, when I say years, I mean, think about it. How quickly did the last year pass? The last 2, the last 5, the blink of an eye. So when I say the pole shift is inevitable, I'm saying this is not something to sit back and wait for. It's something to actively participate in, and it is in the process every day of happening on our planet, and it's measurable. It's measurable. The poles are literally beginning to navigate further from where they used to be. And people might say, oh, but it's just teeny weeny. Yeah, for now. But the pace is kicking up and it's exponentially increasing. The drift from where true north is and true south is, or was, to where it is right now is massive. It's as if the pole itself is on an excursion, and it will keep navigating to a new position until we eventually have that pole flip itself, that pole shift. And we're designed to live through it. I really hope that if there's one thing people remember from what I'm sharing, it's that we're designed to navigate through this. This is our transcendence point. And everything inside of us knows how to walk through this. And when I say that, please understand, I'm not saying your brain knows how. I'm confirming your brain does not know how, because your brain was wired to the realm of illusion you were born to. Your brain is not where you're going to go to find the answers. Something in your heart says, I don't know how, but I know that this is coming, and I know I am meant to live a higher life. Something inside of us is so attuned to that higher life, which is what we've always been homesick for.
Kerry, I normally never say or mention about like my personal experience with what comes through in podcasts, but I'm experiencing a huge bodily activation as you speak. And I just wanted to name that because you mentioned true north, true south. For me, true north has shifted a lot recently around just remembrance of why we were here, why we were sent here. And what you're saying rings so true to me that I wanted just to name that. And I also wanted to bring up the point around how you mentioned this exponential, quickening of our perception of time. And you've even said that one of the telltale signs that we're moving up in density is that time starts behaving differently. We experience bleed throughs, parallel lives. We remember things differently. So I wanted to speak into that again, just for a moment, because I even know people in my personal life that say that it feels like they're living 3 different lifetimes in one, in the sense of they're remembering so much, they're getting activated, they're experiencing Mandela effects. I didn't say that never happened. So what is really happening when it comes to this false matrix that the Archons had put into place? That's getting removed. We can even maybe talk about what happens to these Archons, and then how that changes our perception of time and how time starts to behave differently.
So imagine that reality as we remember it before 2012. Imagine that it was like a train station with multiple trains. And those multiple trains in 2012 drove into each other to become one train. That's a great visual, very simplistic, but very great visual of what's happened when I talk about the convergence point. So imagine that you were spread out in maybe 5, maybe 25, maybe a couple of hundred different timelines. The same you that's called Emilio, the same me that's called Kerry, was spread out, not held in one timeline. We were spread out in multiple timelines. And in those multiple timelines, we experience things differently. For example, in one timeline, you got a job in a bank. And in another timeline, you became an actor. And in another timeline, you moved to Siberia. Now, as all of these trains or all of these timelines in 2012 converge into one, all of those differences need to find some way to coexist. And that is called the Mandela effect. That's why we say, but hold on, I remember the song ending that way, but now it ends this way. The movie had this line, now it's got that line. I put my keys over here. I know I put my keys here, and now they're over there. There's a photograph, for example. There's a photograph from your childhood, but you remember your aunt being at the birthday party, but now in the photograph, your uncle is there, and you don't remember him being there. Reality had to reconfigure in 2012, and it wasn't going to be a smooth ride. So what reality did was kind of reshuffle and reorganize to make as much sense as it possibly could, to appear as if it were one cohesive timeline. So that's the crazy, anomalous experience that we still feel the echo of today, because time behaves very differently. As we ascend and evolve more towards 5D, further away from 3D, time starts to behave differently. So number one, we've got this convergence of timelines, but number two, we've got time itself speeding up. So we're on one timeline now, multiple densities within the one timeline, but the speed of time appears as if it's exponentially faster. And that's because we're raising frequency, but we don't see it. We don't know it, we can't smell it, we can't name it, we can't taste it, but that's the reason why the planet itself is being thrust forward. Whether we're keeping up or not, the planet itself is being flooded by more and more cosmic light. And that's part of what's churning up the speed of time, or the perceived experience of time, which is why we can say, well, 10 hours has just passed, but it felt like 10 minutes. But we can also, within this anomalous time relationship, we can also experience the opposite. We can also experience a 10-minute period feeling extended and drawn out as if it were 10 hours. So it's not totally predictable, and it's not always the case that time sprints faster. Sometimes it appears to stop, even if it just stops for a little while, then it gains speed again. Our memory also goes a little bit weird and wonky in all of this. Not only do we remember reality so-called differently, sometimes we lose memory. And this can normally affect, for most people, not predictably for everybody, but for most people, short-term memory goes for a ball of chalk. Short-term memory, it's like, what did I just do? Why am I in the room? What have I come here for? And then we get a little bit worried about ourselves. We kind of think, oh my God, is this early onset Alzheimer's? Am I headed for dementia? What's happening to my memory? Remember, the entire field of reality had to be reconfigured, and you had to make sense in that reconfigured reality. So absolutely, your memory was always going to go a little bit wonky. When the short-term memory starts collapsing, the long-term memory normally becomes stronger. So we can remember what happened 10 years ago sometimes, but not what happened 10 minutes ago. And it's not necessarily, I can't say, this is the case for everybody, but it's not necessarily cause for alarm. It's very likely part of the weird experiences that we're having. And while we talk about that, here's another weird experience. Maybe you felt it, Emilio. Maybe the people listening, you can let us know in the comments if you have felt this weird one. Sometimes you feel droplets of water on your skin, and then you think, hey, is there a leak in my ceiling? And you look up and you go, no, that's weird. Must have just been my memory, or must have just been my mind playing tricks on me. There's no water, but you could swear. There's almost like this cold or wet feeling. That is a bleed through from the higher dimensions, because the higher dimensions feel, number one, a little bit cooler, not quite cold, but a little bit cooler, and a lot more watery, because they're crystalline consciousness. And when we have bits of that crystalline consciousness drizzling down into our field, we can have what appears to be like droplets of water on the skin. It's very normal. This is us acclimating to living in a higher dimensional frequency. You asked earlier, Emilio, about the Archons, what happens to them?
Yeah.
So as much as we recalibrate and we restructure and we question our sanity as we go through the process, the Archons are being tested to their limit as well right now. They're given a choice. And the choice is this: the false matrix, or the illusory realm that you went to so much effort to keep and preserve and extend the life of, that realm is no longer under your control. That's a very difficult truth and a very difficult reality for them to accept. It's no longer under your control. And what they're trying to do to mitigate the terror of losing their prized possession is to say, okay, so we'll just then reestablish a new illusory realm on another planet somewhere else, because it's now an absolute given that Earth is on track to become a 5D hosting planet. It's an absolute given. So the Archons know this isn't going to be our stronghold anymore. This is not, we're being kicked out of our home, essentially. And how do you feel? And how would you feel if you were kicked out of your home? You'd feel frustrated and angry, but you'd also say, I need to find a new home. I need to find a new home now. And that's what they've been trying to do. They've been trying to find a new planet to host a false matrix, but there are less planetary beings, because each planet is a being, there are less planetary beings inclined to agree to that now. And this is very important. Part of what we're doing here on Earth, part of why this looks as extreme as it does, and by this I mean our reality, is because we're not only attempting to collapse the false matrix of our world, our soul desire, the greatest outcome that our souls could possibly wish for in this scenario is to completely dissolve any possibility of the false matrix ever being on any other planet at any other time in any other way. That's the end goal for us as light beings. Yes, it's a certainty we'll collapse it here. But can we collapse the potential of all false matrices being established anywhere and everywhere else? That remains in the balance, but it's what we're on track to do. So the Archons are very busy looking for another stronghold. It seems less and less likely. And just one more note on that, that is, there are currently other false matrices. We're not the only one. We're just the stronghold. We are the most important to the Archons, because this used to be their home base. This used to be their prized possession. They've already lost the prized possession. They're already scrambling to set it up elsewhere and set up other fail-safes. What happens in reality remains to be seen, but that's kind of where it stands right now.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about the original template of Earth, which you call Eden.
Yes.
And it has to do a lot with Stargates that were placed here that would allow us to travel through and out of dimensions, galactic positions in the universe. Is there a war over Stargates at this time right now? If we look at what's happening in Iran and all these other things, what's really going on there?
It's always, every war It has always been about who controls those stargates. And what the agenda of the false matrix was to keep those stargates shut down. And as Earth comes back online again, guess what happens? Those stargates get activated. It's like you and me and everybody listening. Our hearts are being activated. Our pineal glands are being activated. Our chakric body is beginning to open. Our energy field is beginning to expand. It's kind of like an effortless, automated side effect of living inside of a field where there is more light coming in. And the current wars that we're experiencing today are no different. The stargates cannot be shut down. Do you know why? Because we cannot be shut down. You cannot stop yourself from love. You cannot do it. There was a time when the external reality could do that for us. There was that time. We are no longer in that world. We're no longer in that time. And if we continue to open up our stargates, which is our own energy field, the planet continues to do the same. And I'm not suggesting that the planet can only do it because we do it. What I'm saying instead is the planet is doing it and we're doing it together. It's very much the chicken and the egg, which one came first. Did humanity start this or did the planet start this? It doesn't matter. We're both doing this together, and the one is not separate from the other. These stargates on our planet are being restored. And what that means is direct access is coming back online again. That's direct access to the divine matrix, to God, to the universe, to the original template of creation that we call home, the original home state, not home place, because that's just a place, the state of being that we know as our original true nature. That's an unstoppable thing. And that is what is coming back online. And that is what the stargates connect us to. And that is what our planet is being reconnected to. In many cases, the wars that we're seeing are defending the opening of fifth dimensional stargates. So it's not always, a war means someone's trying to shut something down. It can also be the bad guys trying to prevent an opening from happening. We are so powerful. Instead of being spectators, because war is not a spectator sport, it's something that we all shape by our way in which we perceive what we see. And when we start to feel peace inside of us, even when we see mayhem and chaos outside, we reshape the field of reality. We become beacons of peace and beacons of change and heralds of light, even amidst all of the chaos. Look at the old mindset of the illusory reality. It was, yawn. I'm just going to sit here and wait for somebody to come to their senses. Wait for the war to stop. Wait for peace to happen. We're not here to wait. We're here to participate. And the participation is our active, tuned in, plugged in, present, peaceful state that we step into. And when we do that, reality begins to ripple and reshape itself around that. And those stargates, think of it like this. There's this wonderful childhood game called whack-a-mole. You had a hammer and you had to whack the mole over the head and it would go away, but it would pop back up somewhere else. So if there are those nefarious forces on the planet trying to shut down a stargate, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. If they shut down something here, guess what's going to happen? You and me and you listening and the person next to you, we will then become the next stargate. You can shut down 1 million other stargates, billions more will come. And sometimes they come through people, sometimes through mountains, sometimes through the land, the oceans. There are infinite possibilities of where these stargates can be activated. And yes, it can be a human being now. Was never this way before, but it can even be a human being that serves as a stargate, which is a portal of connection between 3D, the matrix that we've lived in, and the divine fifth dimensional world and beyond. We have so much power.
Do you remember a time when on Earth these stargates were fully active, and what did life on Earth look like at that time?
We've heard.
And is that where we're headed?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. We're headed back to Eden. Eden is that original state that our planet started out as. So Eden was once the jewel of the universe. We now call it Earth, but its original state was known as Eden. And Eden was such a magical place because unlike most other planets, Eden could host multiple different bandwidths of light. So many different parts of creation could congregate here in coherence. Let me just make this make more sense. Most other planets have a very specific signature energy or a very specific bandwidth. And if you're not in that specific field of energy, you can't be on that planet. It doesn't host your life necessarily. It might just host the life that's native to that planet. Earth was different. Earth was like this. We spoke about train stations before here. Let's carry on the example. Earth was kind of like this universal train station, and almost anyone could dock here. So therefore it was busy. And there were so many different diverse cultures, people, ways of being, states of living, but all of them harmonious. All of them had a floor called 5D. Does that make sense when I say the floor was 5D? The foundation was 5D. On that foundation, a sixth dimensional being, a seventh, an eighth, higher dimensional beings could interact. So long as the floor was 5D, we could all manage to congregate here. And this planetary realm of ours expressed itself in her true form as a much larger planet than the Earth, the very constricted, illusory experience we're currently having. We experience Earth much smaller than her true size. So when all of those stargates are switched back on, when Earth ascends, just as we do, Earth becomes physically a much larger place. We don't necessarily physically become much larger beings, but we certainly experience the large energy field around us and how much that's also a part of us. So everything essentially expands, but Earth expands in size physically. So when Eden is reactivated, it's a reset back to how we were before the takeover of the false matrix. And the last time that that happened was the Lemurian and pre-Atlantean era. Earth was a kind of paradise. It was a place where there was only love, there was only harmony, and that's why the Archons wanted it. The Archons wanted Earth because it was the jewel of our cosmic kingdom. They didn't want any lowly little planet. They wanted the jewel because they were arrogant. And the jewel said, okay, let's play this game. Let's have this experience so that the planetary body and the people participating in the experience can know one thing, and that is inevitably we can only ever be love. We will always only ever return to love, no matter how far we stray, no matter how deep the illusion, no matter how lost we feel, we can only ever come back home again. And sometimes we need to stray very far to gain the trust that this is who we are in our fundamental essence state. There are many other things that we came here to learn, but that was one of the big ones.
I know you were a few months ago in South Africa, and you had an encounter with a leopard. And this leopard showed you in many ways what this new template of the human that we're evolving into. I would love if we could hold that space for what the leopard showed you, and where we're going in the human template as well as we evolve.
When we evolve, we're going to be a lot more telepathic. And when that happens, I'm going to tell you the story of the leopard, and you're going to feel it as if you're not just seeing it on a movie, but as if you're living it with me. And I wish that I could give you that telepathic experience of it now, but let me hope that my words do some kind of justice to this magnificent experience. So I was in the bush with my family and a very dear friend of ours. And the game ranger, such an unusual thing, he turned to us. We're in this vehicle, and you know, those open top safari type vehicles, and he says, what animals do you want to see today? And I pipe up and I say, a leopard, because I'm blessed. I live in Africa. I've seen everything, but I'd never seen a leopard. And who can blame me? I mean, they're incredibly elusive creatures. You could and I learned this firsthand, you can pass next to a leopard, you will not know. Take an elephant. You cannot walk past the elephants and somehow miss the fact that the elephant is there. But man, that leopard is a master of camouflage. So I said, well, I'd love to see a leopard. Whatever we see is going to be great, but a leopard is going to be first prize. He says, okay. We drive, maybe 3 turns. There in the literal middle of the road, not the side, not somewhere in a tree, obscure and difficult to see, in the literal middle of the road, where leopards will not be. Leopards, especially in the daytime, they're not comfortable being open and exposed. They're always hiding, as if this leopard was waiting for us. There he stood, middle of the road. We froze. The leopard froze. The leopard then moved as if beckoning to us, moved to the bushes on the side of the road, and he just sat there. And we could see him. So the game ranger said, okay, I'm just going to go a little bit closer, which he did, not interfering, not disturbing, giving him lots of space. He came to us because we couldn't see him. Emilio, it was like he was an arm's distance from us. That's how far he was from our vehicle. We'd all lost sight of him, but he was right there. And it was just this little movement in the bush that kind of gave everyone the hint that, oh, there's this leopard. So we saw his eyes, we felt his energy, and more importantly, I felt the communication, which was, this is 5D. There are these slipstreams of consciousness that we all have access to. And when we enter these slipstreams of consciousness, it is as if we become invisible, unavailable, and unattainable to the illusory realm. And that's exactly what the leopard was showing us. Here I am in your illusory world. There I am in the higher world. Come with me, come with me. And we all felt ourselves in a field of divinity, in a field of majesty, in a field of miracle. And we sat there with this leopard, not staring at it, with this leopard. And the leopard was with us. We were one thing. Oh, I don't know, at least half an hour. It was one of the most spectacular experiences I have had in the wild of Africa, and I've had many. This was one of the best, because the communication was so clear that this is for all of us. This isn't just a special trick of the leopard. This is for all of us. Before Ascension comes and the whole planet is 5D, we will have available to us these slipstreams of consciousness. And we may feel it, for example, in a meditation. We may feel it, for example, listening to a song, looking into the eyes of a lover. We will feel these slipstreams come, and we will say to ourselves, oh, I don't want to leave this place. It's so beautiful. And you never have to leave 5D. You only have to integrate it. And every time you do, you come back to the illusory realm as more truth, more God, more you. And the more you can hold that 5D energy within the illusion, the quicker the illusion dissolves, the more you assist the dissolution of the illusion by being the truth within it. The point here is that we're not alone. We think we are, don't we? We think, oh, we're doing this all by ourselves. The animal kingdom is doing this with us. The galactics, who are our cosmic star family, they're doing this with us. We're very, very much not forgotten, not forsaken, and certainly not alone.
Thank you for taking us on that adventure to Africa. And one thing that is highlighted for me there is there's these different types of perception through which we can play in this realm. And one is through those illusory eyes where we see a leopard and it's separate from us. And then this other expansive state where we become one with that leopard. We become one with the nature. We become one with the lover. And if we want to go a little bit deeper into that shift of how we perceive our own world, our own reality, because I'm sure that everyone would want to be more in that oneness rather than the separation. Even though the separation just gives us this sense of individuality, it's so beautiful to experience sometimes where you merge with an animal being, you merge with a lover, you merge with the external world around you. That's where personally I would want to live more in. And I feel like what you say, 5D, that is the experience of being human. And so what is required of us to start perceiving reality in those new and distinct ways?
What's required of us? And it's so interesting you asked me this question, because I believe it was yesterday somebody asked a very similar question, but the way they phrased it, they said, what do we need to know about ascension? What do we need to know in order to ascend? And my answer was nothing. Please don't try to know your way through this. In other words, don't try to think your way through this. Don't try to enter into a higher realm through your thoughts and through your brain. Now, I'm not saying that thoughts don't matter and thoughts are irrelevant. Thoughts are very powerful things, but you are even more powerful than your thoughts. Your mental body is one of multiple energy fields. And we inside the realm of illusion were confined to interacting only with the mental body. This isn't about demonizing the mental body. This is about recognizing, oh, there's so much more to me. I am all these other fields. I am, for example, a crystalline field. I am diamond light. I am cosmic consciousness. I am all of these other fields. And we can only access these higher and other and alternative realms through feeling. This is why our emotions are so precious and so important, and why in the false matrix we've been taught to disconnect from our emotions. We've been taught that emotions are scary things and we must try rationalize what we feel, which is to say suppress them with thought. When we realize there is something even deeper than an emotion, because an emotion is a feeling, right? But underneath all of those emotions, there is a field of energy that is very visceral, palpable, real, but it's not a thought. It's not a mental construct. It's nothing that exists in the mental realm. It is your true, infinite essence, and you engage with that as an experience rather than a thought. You immerse into the field of infinite truth that you are, that your soul is. So when I say to you, you don't have to know how to ascend, you don't have to know anything in order to ascend, but you do have to feel everything. Understand that your emotions are just the surface level, the literal thin surface level of this realm of feeling. Underneath emotions, there is the multidimensional eternal soul self. Meditation, as boring as it might sound to many, is one of the easiest and most efficient access points, because it teaches you not to bypass the mind, but to tune in beyond the mind. And there are multiple access points such as this, such as meditation, just sitting in a field of love, although I know that's not accessible to everyone, especially when they're in turmoil or they lack clarity. There are many access points to these higher realms, but all of them involve immersing into a feeling and recognizing that we don't step up into the brain, because a lot of people are going to do this. A lot of people are going to step up into the brain and say, where is this field Kerry's talking about? I don't see it. I don't smell it. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What words does it use? Because we're so imprisoned inside the prison of the mind that we think that this is all that there is. We think this is the totality of our spirituality, when in essence we drop into our heart, and then we go even beyond our hearts, even beyond that, into our being. And then we access the infinite universe. So it's kind of like you go into the infinite self, and through the infinite self, there is an infinite universe. And that is the connection we all crave. And that is the beginning of 5D access.
We were talking, Kerry, before we pressed record, right? And both you and I, we walked through the fire metaphorically at the beginning of this year. And I know that experience has been echoed and mirrored throughout many light workers, starseeds, however we want to call them, right? At the end, it's just labels. But you mentioned in one of your recent videos that we were almost programmed for this, a time where we would see the world on fire. And it almost seems like that's also happening internally. Like we are walking through our own fires, moving through challenging situations. What would you say to someone that stumbled upon this video, stumbled upon this conversation, that is in a moment in their life where it seems like they're walking through a fire? What is on the other side, first of all, and what does it truly mean to be in it right now?
We were programmed to anticipate Armageddon. In whatever words, in whatever way, we were programmed to anticipate an end world scenario, like maybe a big world war or a nuclear event or something terrible, maybe an asteroid hitting the planet. We were programmed to anticipate and wait for a disaster event to occur. This was part of the illusory realm that we were born to, because the illusory realm knew it was going to end. And it was going to end in what felt like fire and flame to it. In other words, to the illusion. So what's taking place right now is plain and simple. The illusion is crumbling. When we say the world is on fire, it's not the world, it's the illusion. And when we allow that illusion to be, and don't fall into, oh my gosh, it's Armageddon, it's the end, panic and prep and go insane. It's actually the beginning. It's the beginning of the dissolving of the walls of the prison that we were trapped inside of. The prison of the false matrix, the prison of the mind. It's beginning to crumble. Of course, it was always going to look like fire and brimstone. We were programmed to dread our freedom. We were programmed to dread the collapse of the false structure and see it as a bad thing, when in reality, this is the crumbling false matrix, which is on the brink of revealing the divine truth of home, of Eden, of 5D and beyond, of who we really are. What's on the other side of this is the truth of who we are. Is the return to the divine matrix, is the reunification with the divine realm that we come from, that we have longed for and been separate from. That is what's on the other side. We do not leave a pile of rubble behind us and say, oh, well, look, there's the illusion. Will somebody come and sweep this mess up? We dissolve the illusion into the light. So what we're seeing as the fire and brimstone, the Armageddon situations, what we're seeing yes, it's the collapsing, but it's also a dissolving of illusion into truth. That's the bigger picture. And it's really important to see that bigger picture and maybe even remind ourselves and maybe even remind each other it's a dissolving. And we'll see it at the external and at the internal level. You will see something that looks like your end, something that looks like you coming undone. And it can be very scary until you realize that that's the point of revealing who and what else you are. It's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the beginning.
What do you feel is the deepest truth that a lot of spiritual teachers won't say out loud?
That we're in a better position than we think we are. We're in a better world. We're doing better than we think we are. Because what our eyes see is the mayhem that is obvious. What our eyes see is the chaos. And when you say, as a spiritual teacher, when you say, the world is evolving, what are you met with? You're met with people rolling their eyes saying, good God, Kerry, how delusional are you? And it's very difficult as a spiritual teacher to explain you are already in a higher realm, even though your eyes don't yet see it. And the true spiritual teachers can feel this. They can feel this unfolding. They can feel the elevation. They can feel the love that's coming in and online. But they're dealing with people who aren't yet feeling it. They're not yet attuned to the higher realms. Therefore, they have to keep speaking the language of where the people are. The people are saying, but what about the chaos? What about the madness? Help me get out of this. So they're trying to aim their teachings to address that which is obvious, but beyond the obvious is the beautiful, the less seen, but true reality of what we're on the brink of. And sometimes it sounds like bypassing when we talk about that. It sounds like we're ignoring the collapse that's taking place. I'm not one for ignoring anything. I am rather one for going in, boots on the ground. Let's face what is. Let's get real so that we don't get caught in the illusion, so that we can go beyond. We must transcend the obvious chaos and begin to feel into what lies beyond it. But please understand that that doesn't mean ignore the obvious chaos, because there are people doing this. There are people saying, no, love is all there is. And they're actually doing that from fear. No. There is also illusion. We're inside of duality right now. We're inside of polarity right now. It's okay to name it, but not be defined by it. It's okay to see it, but not be tainted by what we see. It's okay to acknowledge it and not be controlled by it. We become powerful when we can say, oh yes, this illusion. It might be an illusion, but it has appeared as real for all of our lives. Let's just acknowledge that. And once that acknowledgement is in place, oh, now you can go beyond it. Whereas what a lot of spiritual people, not necessarily, well, I suppose some teachers, but not necessarily the spiritual teachers, but what a lot of spiritual people are trying to do, they're trying to ignore the illusion collapsing. And that's bypassing. And that's unhealthy and that's unhelpful. The reality is that we are needing to walk right through the illusion. And I have this really true Kerry style simple saying, and I often refer to simple truths and I teach simple things, but the caveat with that is simple does not mean easy. It just means simple. It means not complex, not complicated. In fact, oftentimes, the more simple something is, the more we struggle, the harder it is for us because we're so wired for complexity. But the simple truth that I often speak is this. You cannot move on from where you are until you are where you are. You cannot move on from where you are till you are where you are. And look at what most people have been taught to do in their lives when they're in pain. They distract, they divert, they analyze, and all of that is to get them out of the panic, the anxiety, and the constriction of being where they are. when you allow yourself, when you're in a hole, when life is so overwhelming and you say, oh my God, I just want to be anywhere but here and I'm inside of a hole and I want to get out. Please be at the bottom of the hole, because that's where the rung of the step ladder is that you need to put your foot on. You need to get your footing at the bottom of the hole that you're in order to access the ladder of consciousness that leads you out. We've been taught never to be in the discomfort of the hole that we're in, to never acknowledge the illusion. Even when we see it, don't talk about it, don't acknowledge it. Pretend it away, bypass it away. It is incredibly uncomfortable to be at the bottom of the hole. But when you do this, then you can move on from where you are. Then you're free. Then that hole will never own you or control you. You will have transcended it. And that is what we came to do. We came to transcend the illusion, not run away from it, transcend. So that means we've got to get into the illusion to come out the other side.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I've just been filled with goosebumps throughout this whole conversation, Kerry. Thank you for bringing these truths in such a simple way, but it feels like it comes from such a deep place at the same time, and it does. And so, as you know, we end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, which are some personalized questions we like to ask at the very end. Before we get into that, I would love to hold space for you to let us know where people can connect with you further. I know you have an amazing membership community. Your YouTube channel, we'll link it in the show notes. Where else would you send people to all of your work?
Easy one-stop shop, my website, Kerry K. I'm speaking slowly when I say Kerry K because it's KK. Kerry is with a K. Americans, for whatever reason, I love you all, but it's not with a C. It's never going to be with a C. I'm not Carrie, I'm Kerry. So Kerry K, Kerryk. Go to my website, kerryk.com. Access the membership community. That is where you're going to get the very real, very raw weekly dose of Kerry. I chat to you for about 60 to 90 minutes, and it's incredibly transformational. There's also meditations and blogs and hosts of stuff. Best way to get hold of me is kerryk.com. And then you can also access the YouTube channel and all of the other social medias as well.
Just a thought, an idea. What if we also, before getting into the final section, I know a lot of this work you do in your membership, but we ended our last conversation with a heart activation from you, and that seemed to really open a lot of people and feel more love. And that's something that we were asking at the beginning before recording. Is there more love? And the answer is always yes. So if you would like to guide us and lead us through a brief heart activation, we'd really appreciate that.
It is so in front of you right now. You literally don't even have to look for it. In fact, if you close your eyes, it'll be even better. You can keep them open, but what if you access the still point inside of your breath and inside of your chest? And between these words, what if you let the energy between these words be felt as a wave that's coming to meet you? Because here's the truth. Love wants you. Love craves you. Love seeks you. Love is calling you home. And it's inside the quiet pause. It's inside. It's almost as if you have to drop into that sacred stillness. And I know that the old world that we were born to spoke us out of that stillness. It told us the stillness was scary. It told us the stillness was a void that would swallow us whole, when the truth is the exact opposite. inside the stillness, inside now, between your breath, between these words. Inside all of that is you. You. The thing you were missing was always you. The stillness gives you access to you and you. You are what love is here to meet. You are what love is here to reclaim. It's this potent, it's that simple. Just breathe. The infinite sacred stillness of this moment. Just breathe it home through your chest, way past your lungs, into the infinite field that you are still a part of. That's it. That's love. Doesn't even ask for anything from you. It just wants to be with you. Nothing else.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you so much. I felt it, I feel it, and I'm going to continue to feel it. And these final three questions are really around integration of what we just navigated together in this conversation. The first one I have for you is, what would you say to humanity if you knew that this was your last public message?
You don't need to know anything else. You think you do, but I promise you, you don't. You don't need more wisdom in words. You need more wisdom in presence. So don't look through your brain, don't look through your thoughts, don't look through your words. You don't need anything else from the mental realm, from books. And not because books are bad, they're beautiful. But the answers that you really, really, really seek, you've already got them. You don't need to go find them. You need to access what you already have. You don't need to learn anything. You need to remember everything. You already have everything you need, but meet yourself here now so that you can access it.
If someone listening right now feels a little lost in their spiritual journey, what does that actually mean?
Being lost simply means I don't know where my center is. That's all. I've lost my way. It's like being in the forest and saying, oh, damn it, which way is home? Being lost is one step away from being found. But you are not here to be found by somebody else. You're here to find yourself. And the best way to do that is to sit down. You're lost in a forest. Stop frantically running. You're walking circles. Stop and sit down and breathe. Put your hand on your heart. Get present. Oh, look. You just found yourself. And when you find yourself, it's to say you meet yourself. You embody your body. You stop running. You start being. Sit down. Because you are already here. You just have to catch up to the here that you're in, which only happens when you stop all of this madness that tells you you're in the wrong place, you're in exactly the right place. Meet it. Sit down, breathe, connect.
When historians of consciousness look back at this era 100 years from now, what will they say about what humanity overcame in this period, in this window of years, in hindsight, of course?
Slavery. They'll say that humanity overcame the slavery that they did not even know that they were in, the slavery that their words did not allow them to acknowledge, the slavery of the mental prison, which was a frequency net cast over them that they did not realize that they were being suffocated by. They didn't even realize there was a world beyond the frequency net that their limited perception gave them access to. Humanity was so enslaved, but there was no slave master with a whip. The slave was the system itself, and they were so loyal to the system because they were afraid of it. They were afraid of not having money or a car or being homeless or not having an identity that allowed them online access, for example. The system was the slave. The slaves defended the system, and that's why it worked. It worked not because the slave masters had such control, but because humanity did not want to see that they were out of power and out of control. They were being controlled. But this difficult transition period that we're in right now is the transition period of acknowledging the slavery. Because when we acknowledge it, then we're free. We stop being slaves the moment we see that we were enslaved. The moment we acknowledge that, we're beyond it. The denial of it is the perpetuation of it. It was such a clever system, and I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see, I was well and truly fooled. 100% wool pulled over the eyes. 100%. But it didn't mean that we were stupid, wrong, and bad. It meant that we were playing inside of a system that we came here to experience. We agreed, we volunteered, we got the t-shirt, we wore it out and burnt the damn thing, and realized that on the other side of that enslavement was our freedom. And it's not that our freedom was the prize, it's that our freedom was simply something we came to remember. And that's when the lights come on. The lights come back on when we go, oh my God, I was always free. I was free having the illusion of being enslaved. Those are the things that we'll say. And you know, as much as I always point out these simple truths, and I always joke with my children, they ask me very complex questions, horrifically, like questions
about
like
what?
Physics. Oh my God.
Really?
So Mom, how do wormholes work exactly? Geez, I don't, the mechanics of a wormhole, not so much. I can explain so many things, but nothing at an intellectual level. So I always tell my kids, baby, I've got 2 brain cells. Don't put them under strain. Don't put them under pressure. I'm a simple gal. And I like things being simple. Simple doesn't mean stupid, though. It means that you're tapping into a non-intellectual wisdom, which is a feeling.
Yeah. Pre-intellectual.
That's it. Because we are beyond intellect. We are so far beyond words, so far beyond thought, so far beyond sound, vibration, and even creation. Yes, we interact in the field of creation, but we even exist beyond the realm of creation. And that boggles the mind. And I want the mind to boggle. I want to go places that my mind can't keep up with. Because that's our home, that's our truth. So as much as I always refer to these very simple truths, these very simple teachings, it's simply to remind us that our journey home is never complicated. It isn't. It doesn't matter what life is revealing to you right now. It doesn't matter how constricted and difficult and multi-layered it is. Whatever you're navigating, it is so simple. Breathe. Be. Recalibrate. Simple truths will always bring you back to love, and love will always bring you home.
Deep breath. Kerry K, with a K and a double R. Love you so much, and thank you for all the work that you do. It's beyond words what I feel when I listen to your wisdom. Pre-intellect, I can just receive and also feel very extremely activated. And I'm sure whoever tuned in today, if they made it up to here, acknowledging them, because we navigated some territory today, and it's a lot of information. So we invite people to also go get a drink of water, step on nature, step on grass, and integrate this conversation. Come back to it whenever you need. This was a true transmission of consciousness. So Kerry, I know we will continue to be doing this work together for many, many years down the line. I see you, and thank you so much for who you are and what you represent in this vast field of leadership and consciousness that we're playing in. So thank you so much.
Thank you for you, Emilio. Thank you for the space you're creating. It's absolutely sacred. Thank you to you.
Thank you. Much love.